And now continuing on with our discipline series, eating healthy. And most of us know what that is. It's getting away from the processed foods, cutting back on the carbs, cutting out the sugar. That's the bulk of it right there. But today we're going to talk about how to actually do that. So we know what eating healthier is. The hard part is making ourselves do it, or do it every day, or at least more often than not in the case of eating healthy. All right, so that's where that discipline comes in. And just like we talked about last time with managing money, in order to make ourselves actually stay on it, we've got to have our foundations in place first. Okay, and it starts with the vision. Vision without work is a daydream, and then work without vision is a nightmare. We've got to have that vision, that goal that we're working toward, that we're hoping we can achieve by eating healthier. All right. And for some of us, it's losing weight. For some of us, it's to be healthier and feel better. For some of us, it's both of those. And in my case, it's both of those. I want to drop some pounds. But with me, I also want to eat how I feel like God intended for us to eat. And one of the best things I've ever heard on food, as far as it being healthy or not, if God made it, it's probably good for you. If man made it, it's probably not. Well, hey, there's a lot of truth in that one. And so I want to eat healthier for the benefits of eating healthier, but then part of my vision also is just living more in how God intended for us to live. All right, and a little interesting note on that. So many of the things we do create conflict in our lives. Okay, I want to go on vacation, I want to eat like a king, and I want to just kick back and chill. All right, but at the same time, I want to save money and lose weight and get in shape. All right, I got a conflict right there. Those two wants are conflicting with each other. Well, so many of the wants in our lives, we're constantly choosing between this or this, and constant conflict. And I think that's where a lot of stress comes from. But when we live how God intended for us to live, all of a sudden the different things we're doing in our lives, they start to complement each other instead of conflict with each other. Okay, I want to do gardening. All right, well, doing gardening, I'm saving money. All right, so that complements the things we talked about with managing money. I want to eat healthier, what we're talking about today. Garden helps with that. Next time we're going to talk about exercise, so I want to focus on exercise. That's important. Gardening gives us exercise. There's so many of the things I want to accomplish. They're complementing each other when I live how I believe God intended for us to live. And I think God intended for us to be gardeners because he put Adam in the garden to tend it. That's what he had in mind for us. Right? But that's my vision, my goal. Now, for some of you, you might not care less about gardening, and hey, that's fine. Matter of fact, I think all of us need to learn how to eat healthy before we even ever think about a garden, because that's how we learn what we actually like to eat as far as healthy foods. There's no point in having a garden if you're not going to eat anything out of it. I take that back. There's a lot of ornamental gardens that are really nice, that are well worth doing. But as far as vegetable garden, there's no point in it if you're not actually going to eat the foods you grow. So learning to eat healthy first tells us what we need to grow. And then if you decide to never do a garden, that's okay too. Still eating healthier and feeling better and all of the benefits that come with that. So all of that sounded really good, or at least it did to me. But it was supposed to. That's the point. That was my goal, my vision, my dream. It fits with how I think and how I want to live. All right, now you've got to figure out what your vision is. What do you hope to achieve by eating healthier? All right, and that's the first foundation. But before we go putting in that work, now we've got to come up with other foundations. And the next one is we have to actually like what we're eating. I mean, seriously, it's important. Okay, so for most of us, that means learning how to cook. Yeah, most of us do not know how to cook healthy. We do not know how to take raw, whole foods and turn them into something really good. All right, it's prepackaged, highly processed, boxed stuff has just become part of our diet for so many of us now that we have forgotten how to cook as a nation. Okay, so we've got to put in some time. If it's at least an hour, maybe 2 hours a week, any day, evening, morning, weekend, whatever, just an hour or two, once a week. And we've got to do some research. We've got to look for dishes that we want to cook. That when we see that, okay, that sounds really good. I want to try that. All right, so we've got to experiment. We've got to find dishes to try. We have to put in that time in the kitchen, at least however long it takes to cook something, 30 minutes, an hour, and we have to actually cook. All right, well, that's one of the foundations, and we got to set aside that time for it. And it's not convenient, but that's the problem. That's what gets most of us is the convenient foods. Those are the ones we shouldn't be eating. And in the case of convenience, eating convenient foods turns into a habit because it is convenient. That's what habits are about. They're meant for us to just go on autopilot, and it keeps us from having to think, and it saves us time and energy. All right, well, it's not good when it comes to the convenient foods. Most of them are not good, and we are what we eat. So, all right, so we have to find that time to do some research on the foods and dishes. We have to try actually cooking. We have to experiment, and that's the second foundation. Third and final foundation that we have to put in place to eat healthy is we have to plan ahead. We've got to. If we don't, we're going to fall back on convenience. We're going to realize, hey, I'm hungry. I want something that's quick. Quick equates to convenient. And, we're out somewhere on a Saturday. Hey, I'm really hungry. Let me just stop in a fast food restaurant. And we're right back into that habit. So we've got to plan ahead. And we've also got to plan ahead to make sure we have the ingredients for the things we want to cook. And once we start cooking with whole foods, and this is something I had to learn, but we're going to have some stuff go bad on us. When we start buying real vegetables, some stuff's going to go bad. That's just the thing about whole foods. They go bad. And that's something right there to tell you if what you're eating is healthy or not. If it doesn't ever go bad, there's a good chance it's not that healthy. Sugar is a preservative. All right, that's why it's in jams. It preserves them. It keeps them from going bad. Okay, if bacteria can't grow in it because it's so poisonous, then it's probably not good for you either. All right, so with real foods, we're going to have some of them go bad. That's just part of it. Accept it. But if you're planning ahead, you're not going to have near as much go bad on you because you've already planned, okay, I need this for this. In my case, one of the things I love to cook for breakfast, it's a variation of something my grandma used to fix on occasion, salmon and eggs. All right, so for myself, my version, I'll chop up a bell pepper and mushrooms, and then I'll saute those in olive oil. Then I'll mix in a can of salmon, throw in 4 eggs. And then if I've got some baby spinach, kale, or something like that, I'll chop up some of that and throw it in there. Oh, another tip. Things that you don't wake up exactly craving, like baby spinach and kale, throw them in some stuff you do like soups or chili, or in my case, my salmon and eggs. Okay, that's a really good meal. I fix that on Sunday mornings. I'll eat a serving then, and then what's left over, I'll put it in containers, and I'll get 3 containers out of that, so 3 more servings. Well, that's my breakfast for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday right there. It's already covered. I don't even have to cook, don't even have to stop and get anything. I suddenly just made breakfast convenient. All right, and then for Thursday and Friday, I'm going to do scrambled eggs, and then kale, spinach, whatever I got laying around, I'll throw it in my scrambled eggs, or whatever other vegetables. Okay, so I just literally, Saturdays I'm going to eat whatever, but generally it's pretty healthy too. Okay, so my breakfast is pretty much taken care of. All right, well, that's a third of my meals right there. I'm eating healthy already, a third of my meals, just by having my breakfast taken care of. All right, that's the planning ahead part. Part of that also, though, I need to buy groceries on Wednesday in order to make sure I've got everything I need Sunday morning. I mean, I could buy them Thursday or Friday or whatever. I found out if I buy my ingredients on Monday, by the next Sunday, my mushrooms are starting to look a little rough. And I don't know how you know when mushrooms go bad, but because they're a fungus. Anyway, that's that planning ahead. Okay, now, supper. And this is the one that's been getting me. That's where I've been putting on the weight, where I've been falling back on the convenience of supper. Okay, one of the dishes I like to do that I got away from that I have recently started back doing is fried cabbage. And don't worry, it's a lot healthier than it sounds. Take a head of cabbage, cut it in half. And for myself, what I do is I'll fry up, take a chicken breast, I'll slice it up, slices, fry it in olive oil, then throw in some chopped bell pepper, chopped cabbage, half a head of cabbage. Mix all that together, put a lid on it, and cut the heat down just a little below medium, let it steam for 30, 40 minutes until the cabbage is soft. All right, and the chicken's in there with it, and that makes the chicken really, it starts falling apart. It's pretty good stuff. I like it. All right, that's a really low carb, pretty easy meal that I enjoy. All right, in my case, I'm eating leftovers for lunch the next day. I carry leftovers to work for lunch. So that's 2 meals. And unfortunately, when I don't eat healthy, when I don't take the time to cook, I'm eating poorly for 2 meals because then I don't have those leftovers for the next day. All right. But I've gotten back in the habit of cooking that. I'm covered for 2 meals, eating healthy. And then I take the other half of that head of cabbage, and then I'll make homemade coleslaw and something else. I love sweet potatoes, baked sweet potatoes, and then chicken the next night. So that's pretty common. All right, now I'm eating healthy for 4 meals. Okay, you combine that with the meals for breakfast, suddenly half my meals almost now are pretty healthy. All right, so it's really not as hard as it sounds to eat healthy. It's just we have to put those foundations in place. We have to be motivated enough to make ourselves put in the work. All right, that's the vision and goal. We have to set aside at least some time during the week to do that research, to do that experimenting in the kitchen, to learning to cook, and then we have to plan ahead. Once we do those things, it just becomes a matter of that discipline after that to make ourselves do it each week. And then it becomes habit, and then it's really not that bad. Well, I think that's a good jumping off point for us. And we could have went so much deeper into this on foods because there is so much to talk about there. I mean, there's just so much. Most of us just don't understand about foods and how we should eat and the different diets and the advantages and disadvantages and so on. All right, and I'm going to leave a link below to a video that I think some of you will enjoy, foods that heal and foods that kill. All right, I'm not saying believe everything that's in it. It's just something to get you thinking about this. Okay, and for myself, I'm 207 pounds right now. By the end of this year, I want to be 190 pounds. So I've got a year to drop 17 pounds. And for me, 190 pounds, that's a pretty good weight. That's where I feel at my best for my size, my build, and so on. And I mentioned before that I have alpha-gal syndrome. Okay, so I'm allergic to red meat, and I had to cut out dairy and gluten, which makes eating healthy a lot easier for me than most of you. But when that first hit me, it caused a lot of problems. I had no idea what was going on. It caused neurological problems. My gallbladder just quit working. All of a sudden, I couldn't keep food down. And I lost 40 pounds in 30 days. And then, with the next year or 2 years, however long it took for me to figure out that I had alpha-gal syndrome, and yes, I had to figure it out because my doctors couldn't figure it out. Different subject, but You need to be responsible for your own health. I guess that's what it amounts to. But all right, by the time I figured it out, I was 160 something pounds, which for me, I was skin and bones. Okay, so I know firsthand losing too much weight too quickly is not good. You don't want to be there. Now I've swung too far back the other way. So I need to drop a few pounds and get right in the middle somewhere. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to implement changes to my diet slowly, which for me is primarily cutting out carbs, and that's what most of us need to do. And that slow is important. Okay, we don't need to go making really drastic changes to our diet suddenly. There's just too many unknowns there. I remember hearing about some celebrity out West Coast, she got on some kind of fad seafood diet. A month later, she was in the hospital with mercury poisoning. So much of our fish now is contaminated with mercury. All right, so we need to do it. That research is important. Okay, and then we need to make changes slowly so our bodies have time to react, and we can see what agrees with us and what doesn't. And we're all different. All right, so the keto diet and the carnivore diet, which is just eating all meat, and Mediterranean diet, there's all kinds of diets. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying for some of us, they are wrong. We're all different. We're all unique. Okay, so we need to make slow changes and see what is working for us. For me, keto and carnivore, that's just not even an option for me being allergic to red meat. All right, so I can't say how they work. I mean, theoretically, they sound good, which just my thoughts. I think that carnivore diet or keto, people that originated or lived, for millennia in extreme northern climates, that makes sense. The Inuits are Eskimos. Right? In the wintertime, they're eating just blubber, fat. Right? Well, they can do that, and it's healthy, and they're healthy because of that. There's actually a lot of vitamin C in fat. Well, when a lot of the first settlers started going to the far north, Alaska and Canada, in the wintertime, a lot of them were dying from what was called rabbit fever. They ate rabbits all winter. Well, that's too much protein. It causes all kinds of problems, all right, when we're just eating protein. So fat's actually good for us, whereas the extremely high protein's not. And that goes back to doing the research and learning about all this. And for people of Northern European descent, Scandinavian countries, however many years back, decades, centuries back, they weren't eating fresh vegetables and fruits in the wintertime, so I'm guessing their diets were mostly animal fat and fish and things like that. I don't know, but let's just say the keto and carnivore diets and stuff, to me they do make sense theoretically. Right, but then those same people in the springtime and summer would have been eating blueberries and greens and produce and stuff. So I don't think anything taken to the extreme all the time is very healthy. So we just got to do that experiment. Okay, now at the end of this year, I'm going to post my results of my weight and all my other goals too. I'm going to put up or I'm going to shut up then. And I encourage all of you to do the same. And this spring, hopefully, when I start back on the garden, we'll talk more specifically about foods, just because that is such a fascinating topic on foods and how little we know about them now. For apples, we know the 5 or 6 types of apples in the grocery store, and that's all most of us have ever seen, but there's actually thousands of varieties of apples, all with their own unique taste. There's apples that have a hint of cinnamon to them. There's apples that taste like pineapples. There's just almost an infinite variety. It's just those don't ship well. And that's what determines what gets put out at the grocery store, what stores well, what ships well. And as a result, there's so many varieties of food that most of us just don't even know exist anymore. Right? Anyway, different topic for a different day. And I encourage all of you to post your results at the end of the year also after you set your goals for whatever you're trying to do. God bless and have a great day.